The interview that changed everything. Natalie Brooks stood outside the towering glass building of Grant Industries, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched her worn leather portfolio. At 28 years old, she had been to more job interviews than she could count in the past 6 months, each one ending in polite rejection. This time felt different, though she could not explain why. The morning sun reflected off the steel and glass structure, making it look almost otherworldly beautiful against the Chicago skyline. Inside the lobby, everything gleamed with success. Marble floors, modern art installations, and well-dressed professionals moving with purpose. Natalie felt like an outsider in her simple gray dress and practical flats, but she held her head high. She had learned long ago that confidence was sometimes the only weapon she had against the world's judgment. The receptionist, a friendly woman named Patricia Moore from HR, greeted her warmly and led her to the top floor. As the elevator climbed, Natalie tried to steady her breathing. She needed this job more than anyone could understand. Her small studio apartment in a questionable neighborhood, the mounting bills, and most importantly, the constant pressure from her father who seemed to find her no matter where she moved. Meeting Harrison Grant. When the elevator doors opened, Natalie stepped into an office that took her breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city, and the space was decorated with understated elegance. But what truly captured her attention was the man standing by the window, his silhouette commanding even in stillness. Harrison Grant turned as she entered, and for a moment, time seemed to pause. He was tall, probably 6 feet 2 inches, with dark hair that had just a touch of gray at the temples. His blue eyes were striking, intelligent, and there was something in his expression that made her feel both nervous and strangely safe at the same time. "Miss Brooks," he said, his voice deep and warm as he extended his hand. "Thank you for coming." "Mr. Grant," Natalie replied, shaking his hand. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through her, and from the brief flicker in his eyes, she wondered if he felt it too. He gestured to a chair across from his desk, and as she sat down, Natalie noticed how he studied her with genuine interest rather than the dismissive glances she had grown accustomed to from other interviewers. "I have read your resume," Harrison began, settling into his own chair. "You have an impressive background, but there are some gaps. Would you mind explaining those?" Natalie had prepared for this question, but something about his direct, yet kind approach made her want to be more honest than she had planned. "I've had to relocate several times for personal reasons," she said carefully. "Family situations that require my attention. But I can assure you, Mr. Grant, that I am fully committed to any position I accept. I am reliable, hardworking, and I learn quickly." Harrison nodded thoughtfully. "Tell me something about yourself that is not on this paper. What drives you, Miss Brooks?" The question surprised her. Most interviewers stuck to standard questions about skills and experience. "I suppose what drives me is the desire to prove that where you come from does not determine where you can go," she answered honestly. "I want to build a life that is stable, meaningful, and entirely my own." An unexpected connection. Something shifted in Harrison's expression when she said those words. There was recognition there, as if he understood exactly what she meant. "I built this company from nothing," he shared, leaning back in his chair. "My father was a factory worker who died when I was 15. People told me I would never amount to anything, that success was for people born into the right families. So I understand that drive you were talking about." Natalie felt her guard lowering slightly. This was not what she had expected from a billionaire CEO. "Then you understand why this opportunity means so much to me," she said softly. "I do," Harrison replied, "which is why I'm offering you the position." Natalie's heart leaped. "Really? Just like that? Just like that?" He confirmed with a slight smile. "I have learned to trust my instincts about people, Miss Brooks, and my instincts tell me you are exactly what this company needs. When can you start?" "Monday," Natalie said quickly, perhaps too quickly. "I can start Monday." "Perfect. Patricia will handle all the paperwork and orientation details." Harrison stood, extending his hand again. "Welcome to Grant Industries, Natalie." This time, when their hands touched, the connection felt even stronger. Natalie found herself looking into those blue eyes, and feeling something she had not felt in years. Hope. The first warning. Natalie practically floated through the rest of the day. After completing paperwork with Patricia, she treated herself to a real lunch at a nice cafe instead of her usual cheap sandwich. She even allowed herself to imagine a future where she could afford a better apartment, maybe take a class or two at the community college. Her phone rang just as she was finishing her coffee. When she saw the caller ID, her entire body tensed. It was her father. "Hello, Dennis," she answered, refusing to call him Dad anymore. "So you got yourself a fancy new job." His voice came through, already slurred even though it was only 2 in the afternoon. "Working for some rich guy? You think you are too good for your old man now." "How did you find out?" Natalie asked, her hand tightening around the phone. "I have my ways. You cannot hide from me, Natalie girl. We are family, and family takes care of family. You know what that means." She did know. It meant he would want money. It meant he would make demands. It meant her peace would be temporary. "I just started," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I have not even received my first paycheck yet." "Well, when you do, remember who raised you. Remember who you owe." The line went dead. Natalie sat there, staring at her phone, feeling the familiar weight of anxiety settling over her shoulders. For a few hours, she had allowed herself to believe things could be different. But Dennis Brooks had a way of poisoning every good thing in her life. The first day, Monday morning, arrived with a mixture of excitement and dread. Natalie arrived at Grand Industries 30 minutes early, determined to make a perfect impression. Patricia greeted her warmly and showed her to her desk, which was positioned just outside Harrison's office. "Mr. Grant usually arrives around 8, Patricia explained. "He likes his coffee black, no sugar. He has back-to-back meetings most mornings, so you will need to keep his schedule organized. He seems tough, but he is actually one of the kindest bosses I have ever worked for." As if on cue, Harrison emerged from the elevator at exactly 8. When he saw Natalie at her desk, his serious expression softened into a smile. "Good morning, Miss Brooks. Ready for your first day?" "Absolutely, Mr. Grant," she replied professionally, though her heart raced at his nearness. "Please, when it is just us, call me Harrison," he said, pausing by her desk. "Miss Brooks sounds far too formal for someone I will be working with closely." "Then you should call me Natalie," she responded, surprising herself with her boldness. His smile widened. "Natalie it is." The morning passed in a blur of meetings, phone calls, and learning new systems. Harrison was patient when she asked questions, and Natalie found herself falling into an easy rhythm with him. He was demanding, but never harsh, particular, but never condescending. More than once, she caught him watching her with an expression she could not quite read. During lunch, while Natalie was eating at her desk and reviewing files, Harrison emerged from his office. "You should take a proper lunch break," he said. "There is a good place 2 blocks from here." "I prefer to work through lunch," Natalie replied. "I want to make sure I am on top of everything." Harrison studied her for a moment. "You do not have to prove yourself in one day, Natalie. The job is yours. Take breaks when you need them." The kindness in his voice made her throat tighten unexpectedly. When was the last time someone had shown genuine concern for her well-being? "Thank you," she managed to say. "I will keep that in mind." Cracks in the facade. By the end of her first week, Natalie had settled into her role beautifully. She anticipated Harrison's needs before he voiced them, organized his chaotic schedule with impressive efficiency, and handled difficult clients with grace. But Harrison was observant, and he began noticing things that concerned him. The way Natalie jumped slightly whenever her phone rang. How she would excuse herself to take certain calls with a tension in her shoulders that did not match her normally calm demeanor. The occasional dark circles under her eyes suggesting sleepless nights. And most troubling, the way she seemed to be constantly looking over her shoulder. On Friday afternoon, as most of the office was winding down for the weekend, Harrison found Natalie still at her desk, staring at her phone with an expression of pure distress. Her hands were shaking. "Natalie," he said gently, not wanting to startle her. "Is everything all right?" She looked up quickly, and he saw tears threatening to spill from her eyes before she blinked them away. "Yes, of course. Just a personal matter." Harrison closed the door to the outer office, giving them privacy. "You have been doing an exceptional job this week," he said, leaning against her desk. "But I cannot help noticing that something is bothering you. If there is anything I can do to help, I hope you know you can tell me." For a moment, Natalie seemed to be weighing whether to trust him. Then her phone buzzed with a text message, and whatever resolve she had crumbled. "It is my father," she said quietly. "He has been calling and texting constantly since I started here. He wants money, and when I told him I do not have any yet, he got angry." "Is he threatening you?" Harrison asked, his voice taking on a protective edge that surprised them both. "Not directly," Natalie hedged. "He just knows how to make me feel guilty. He raised me alone after my mother left when I was young, and he never lets me forget what he sacrificed." Harrison's jaw tightened. He recognized manipulation when he heard it. "That sounds like more than just a father asking for help. That sounds like someone using your sense of obligation against you." Natalie looked at him with surprise. No one had ever framed it that way before. "He is all the family I have," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Family should not make you feel afraid," Harrison said firmly. "And I have seen how you react when he contacts you. That is not love or gratitude you are feeling. That is fear." The accuracy of his observation broke something loose in Natalie. A single tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. "I do not know how to make it stop," she whispered. "He always finds me. Always." Harrison pulled a chair close to her desk and sat down, bringing himself to her eye level. "Then maybe it's time to stop running," he said, "and start fighting back. But you do not have to do it alone, Natalie. Let me help you." The offer hung in the air between them, loaded with implications neither was ready to fully acknowledge. But in that moment, looking into his sincere blue eyes, Natalie felt something she had not felt in years. She felt protected, the calm before the storm. The weekend passed with an unusual sense of peace for Natalie. Harrison had insisted she take his personal phone number before leaving Friday evening, telling her to call if she needed anything at all. She had saved it in her contacts, staring at his name for a long moment before putting her phone away. The gesture felt intimate in a way that both thrilled and terrified her. Monday morning arrived with crisp autumn air and golden sunlight streaming through the office windows. Natalie had dressed carefully in a navy blue dress that made her feel confident and professional. When she arrived at her desk, she found a coffee waiting for her with a small note in Harrison's distinctive handwriting. "Thought you might need this." Ush! Such a simple gesture, yet it made her heart flutter in a way she had not experienced in years. She was still smiling when Harrison emerged from the elevator, looking impeccable in a charcoal suit. When their eyes met, something electric passed between them. "Good morning," he said, his voice warm. "I hope you had a restful weekend." "I did, actually," Natalie replied honestly. "Thank you for the coffee." "My pleasure." He paused at her desk, seeming reluctant to move toward his office. "Natalie, about what we discussed Friday. The offer still stands. Whatever you need, I am here." Before she could respond, Patricia's voice came over the intercom. "Mr. Grant, your 9 o'clock is here early." Harrison nodded, but his eyes remained on Natalie for a moment longer. "We will talk later," he promised, then disappeared into his office. The morning proceeded smoothly with meetings, conference calls, and the steady rhythm of office work. Natalie found herself more relaxed than she had been in months. Perhaps this was what stability felt like. Perhaps she could actually build something here. That illusion shattered at 11:30. The confrontation. Natalie was reviewing contract details when she heard raised voices from the reception area. Her blood ran cold when she recognized one of them. "I know my daughter works here. You cannot keep me from seeing her." Dennis Brooks had found her. Natalie's hands began to shake uncontrollably. She stood up from her desk just as her father burst past the security guard and into the executive floor. It looked worse than the last time she had seen him 6 months ago. His clothes were wrinkled, his eyes were bloodshot, and he reeked of alcohol even from a distance. "There you are," Dennis shouted, pointing an accusatory finger at her. "Too good to answer your father's calls now? Working for some rich man in your fancy office." "Dennis, please," Natalie said quietly, acutely aware of everyone watching. "This is not the place." "Not the place," He laughed bitterly, stumbling slightly as he approached her desk. "You are my daughter. I raised you by myself when your worthless mother abandoned us. You owe me." The office had gone completely silent. Natalie could feel dozens of eyes on them, and shame burned through her entire body. This was exactly what she had been running from, exactly what she had feared would happen. "I have asked you to leave multiple times," Natalie said, trying to keep her voice steady even as tears threatened. "I cannot keep giving you money. You need help, real help. Help." Dennis spat. "What I need is for my ungrateful daughter to remember who took care of her, who fed her and put a roof over her head." "You mean when you were sober enough to remember I existed?" The words came out before Natalie could stop them, years of repressed anger finally breaking free. Dennis's face turned red with rage. He moved toward her desk aggressively, and Natalie instinctively took a step back. That was when Harrison's office door flew open. "Harrison takes a stand. That is far enough." Harrison's voice cut through the tension like a blade. He moved between Dennis and Natalie with such commanding presence that even in his drunken state, Dennis stopped in his tracks. "Who the hell are you?" Dennis demanded. "I'm Harrison Grant. I own this building, this company, and the security team that's going to escort you out if you take one more step toward my employee." Dennis sized Harrison up, clearly trying to determine if he was a threat. "This is between me and my daughter. You have no right to interfere in family business." "It became my business the moment you caused a disturbance in my workplace," Harrison replied coolly. "And from what I just witnessed, this is not about family. This is about a man trying to manipulate and intimidate someone who wants nothing to do with him. You do not know anything about us." Dennis shouted. "I know enough," Harrison said, his voice dropping to a dangerous tone that Natalie had never heard before. "I know that your daughter has been terrified of you contacting her. I know that you have been harassing her for money. And I know that what you're doing right now constitutes harassment and potentially assault." Dennis turned his attention back to Natalie, his expression twisting into something cruel. "This is what you want? To hide behind some rich man who probably just wants to get in your pants? You are just like your mother, trading yourself for security." The words hit Natalie like a physical blow, and she felt herself shrinking under the weight of them. But before she could respond, Harrison stepped forward, his body language radiating controlled fury. "You will not speak to her like that," Harrison said quietly, but his voice carried absolute authority. "Not in my building, not anywhere. What kind of father tries to destroy his daughter's chance at a better life?" "Better life?" Dennis laughed bitterly. "She would not have any life if it were not for me. I sacrificed everything for her." "Sacrifice implies choice and love," Harrison countered. "What you did was use a child's natural dependency to create a lifetime of obligation. That is not sacrifice. That is manipulation." The accuracy of Harrison's words seemed to catch Dennis off guard. He looked between Harrison and Natalie, seeing something in their interaction that made his eyes narrow with calculation. "I see what is happening here," Dennis said slowly. "My daughter shows up, plays the victim, and you fall for it. How much has she gotten from you already?" "Nothing," Natalie said, finding her voice again. "I have not asked him for anything." "But he offered, did he not?" Dennis smirked. "They always do, and then they expect something in return." Harrison's hands clenched into fists at his sides, but his voice remained steady. "Security is on their way up. You have two choices. Leave now voluntarily, or be removed and face charges for trespassing and harassment. You cannot do this." Dennis shouted. "She is my daughter." "Being a father is more than biology," Harrison said. "It is about protection, support, and unconditional love. You have shown none of those things. You have shown up drunk and aggressive, made accusations and insults, and tried to intimidate someone who clearly wants nothing to do with you. That is not a father. That is a bully." The elevator doors opened, and two security guards stepped out. They moved toward Dennis with professional efficiency. "This is not over," Dennis snarled at Natalie. "You cannot hide from me forever. We are family, whether you like it or not." "Actually," Harrison interjected, "it is over. My attorney will be filing for a restraining order on Miss Brooks's behalf this afternoon. If you come near her again, anywhere, you will be arrested." Dennis's face went pale as the security guards took his arms. "You cannot do that. I am her father." "Watch me," Harrison replied. As the guards escorted Dennis toward the elevator, he shouted back at Natalie, "You will regret this. You are making a huge mistake trusting him." Then he was gone, and the office remained in stunned silence. Natalie stood frozen at her desk, trembling from head to toe. The shame of having everyone witness her family's dysfunction was overwhelming. She could feel their stares, hear their whispered conversations starting. Harrison turned to address the office. "Everyone back to work. This matter is resolved." His tone left no room for argument or gossip. Then he gently took Natalie's elbow. "Come with me," he said softly, guiding her into his office and closing the door behind them. The aftermath. As soon as the door closed, Natalie's legs gave out. Harrison caught her, carefully guiding her to the leather sofa in his office. She buried her face in her hands, mortification and relief warring inside her. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." "Hey," Harrison said gently, sitting beside her. "You have nothing to apologize for. Nothing that happened out there was your fault. Everyone saw," Natalie said through her tears. "Everyone knows now. They probably think exactly what he said, that I am using you, that I am some kind of gold digger." "I do not care what anyone thinks," Harrison said firmly. "And anyone who works for me knows better than to make assumptions or spread gossip. What I care about is whether you are okay." Natalie finally looked up at him, her eyes red from crying. "Why are you doing this? You barely know me. Why would you put yourself and your company at risk for someone like me?" "Someone like you?" Harrison repeated. "You mean someone intelligent, hardworking, and strong enough to survive a childhood with an abusive parent? Someone who built a life for herself despite every obstacle?" "I'm a mess," Natalie said, shaking her head. "I come with baggage and drama, and a father who will probably make your life miserable now, too." Harrison reached out and gently took her hand. The contact sent warmth through her entire body. "Natalie, do you want to know what I see when I look at you?" She nodded, unable to speak. "I see someone who shows up every day and gives 100% despite carrying weight that would crush most people. I see kindness that has not been destroyed by cruelty. I see potential that has been suppressed but never extinguished." He paused, his blue eyes intense on hers. "And I see someone I care about far more than I probably should, given that you have only worked here for 2 weeks." Natalie's breath caught. "Harrison, I know this is complicated," he continued. "I know I am your boss, and there are about 100 reasons why this could be a terrible idea. But I cannot pretend I do not feel what I feel. From the moment you walked into my office for that interview, something shifted in me. I felt it too," Natalie admitted quietly. "That is what scared me. After everything with my father, I did not trust my judgment about people anymore. But you make me want to trust again." Harrison's thumb traced gentle circles on the back of her hand. "Then trust this. I meant what I said out there. My attorney will file for a restraining order today. Your father will not be able to come near you legally. And if he tries, he will face serious consequences. He is not going to let this go," Natalie warned. "When Dennis Brooks wants something, he does not stop until he gets it or destroys everything trying. Then he's going to learn what it is like to face someone who actually has the resources to fight back," Harrison said with quiet determination. "But more than that, he is going to learn that you are not alone anymore." The word "anymore" hung between them, loaded with promise. Natalie felt something inside her chest crack open, something that had been locked away for years. Hope. Real, terrifying, beautiful hope. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," Harrison said, "you take the rest of the day off. Go home, rest, process everything. Tomorrow we will deal with the legal aspects. And after that, we take things one day at a time." "And us?" Natalie asked, barely daring to voice the question. "What are we?" Harrison smiled, and it transformed his entire face. "Whatever you want us to be. There is no pressure, no expectations. But I'm not going anywhere, Natalie. Not unless you want me to." "I do not want you to go anywhere," she whispered. He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. When she did not, his lips met hers in a kiss that was gentle, sweet, and full of unspoken promises. It was not demanding or aggressive. It was the kiss of someone who saw her, really saw her, and still chose to stay. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. Definitely complicated, Natalie said with a small laugh. The best things usually are, Harrison replied. An unexpected ally. While Natalie gathered her things to leave, Harrison made several phone calls. First to his attorney, James Sullivan, detailing everything that had happened and initiating the restraining order process. Then to the head of security, ensuring they had clear instructions about Dennis Brooks and updating security protocols for the building. Patricia knocked on the door just as Natalie was about to leave. Mr. Grant, Miss Brooks, I wanted to check if everything was all right. We are managing, Harrison said. Thank you for your concern, Patricia. Patricia looked at Natalie with genuine kindness in her eyes. My dear, I have worked in this building for 20 years, and I have seen a lot of things. What happened today was not your fault. Anyone who thinks otherwise will answer to me. The unexpected support made Natalie's eyes fill with tears again. Thank you, she managed to say. I raised 3 daughters on my own after my husband passed, Patricia continued. I know what it is like when family becomes a burden instead of a blessing. You did nothing wrong by protecting yourself. After Patricia left, Harrison walked Natalie to the private elevator. I'm going to have a car take you home, he said, and I want you to call me tonight, just so I know you are safe. You do not have to do all this, Natalie protested weakly. I know I do not have to, Harrison replied. I want to. There is a difference. As Natalie rode down in the elevator, her phone buzzed with several texts. Most were from numbers she did not recognize, clearly office gossip finding its way to her. But one message stood out. It was from Dennis. You think your rich boyfriend can protect you? You have no idea what I am capable of. This is just the beginning. Her hand shook as she screenshot the message and forwarded it to Harrison, who had given her his number that morning. Within seconds, he called. I saw it, he said without preamble. I am forwarding this to James immediately. This is exactly the kind of evidence we need for the restraining order. He's going to escalate, Natalie said quietly. He always does when he does not get his way. Let him try, Harrison replied, and there was steel in his voice. He is not dealing with a scared young woman anymore. He is dealing with me. And I promise you, Natalie, I will not let him hurt you. For the first time in her life, Natalie believed that someone might actually be able to keep that promise. The legal battle begins. The next morning, Natalie woke to 17 missed calls from Dennis and dozens of increasingly aggressive text messages. Each one was more threatening than the last, and she felt the familiar panic rising in her chest. But then she remembered Harrison's words. She was not alone anymore. She screenshot every message and forwarded them to James Sullivan, Harrison's attorney, who responded immediately with reassurance that this strengthened their case considerably. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for Friday, just 4 days away. When Natalie arrived at the office, she was surprised to find that Harrison had rearranged the floor plan. Her desk was now inside a private office adjacent to his, with frosted glass walls that offered both visibility and privacy. I thought you might appreciate a bit more space, Harrison explained when he saw her examining the new setup. And security. This is too much, Natalie protested, though she could not deny the relief she felt at not being exposed to everyone's curious stares. It is not nearly enough, Harrison replied, but it is a start. Throughout the week, Harrison proved himself to be more than just a powerful CEO. He was strategic, protective, and surprisingly tender. He made sure Natalie ate lunch, insisted she leave at reasonable hours, and called every evening just to check in. Their conversations would start about work and the restraining order, but inevitably drift into personal territory, sharing stories about their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. Why are you not married? Natalie asked one evening during one of their calls. Surely someone as successful as you has had opportunities. Harrison was quiet for a moment. I was engaged once about 5 years ago. Her name was Rebecca. She was perfect on paper, sophisticated, well-connected, from the right family. But I realized before the wedding that I was marrying an idea of what my life should look like, not someone I actually loved. What happened? I called it off 3 months before the wedding. She was furious, told me I had wasted her time, that I would never find anyone better. Maybe she was right about that last part. I have not seriously dated anyone since. Until now? Natalie asked softly. Until now, Harrison confirmed. Though calling what we have dating seems inadequate, this feels like something more. Natalie's heart raced. It does it not? Like we have known each other much longer than 2 weeks. Some connections transcend time, Harrison said. I believe that now. The hearing. Friday arrived with gray skies and the promise of rain. Natalie dressed in a conservative black suit that Harrison had helped her pick out earlier in the week. As they drove to the courthouse together, she could not stop her hands from shaking. What if the judge does not believe me? She asked. What if Dennis convinces them that I am the problem? Harrison took her hand, his grip warm and reassuring. James has prepared an excellent case. We have all the text messages, the security footage from Monday, testimonies from people who witnessed his behavior. The evidence speaks for itself. Inside the courthouse, they met James in a conference room. He was a sharp-looking man in his 50s with kind eyes and an air of competence. Miss Brooks, he greeted her warmly. Are you ready? As ready as I will ever be, Natalie replied. Good. Now, Dennis's attorney is going to try to paint you as an ungrateful daughter who abandoned her father. They will likely bring up that he raised you alone, that he is struggling financially. Do not let that shake you. We are prepared for every argument they might make. The courtroom was smaller than Natalie had imagined, but no less intimidating. Dennis sat across the aisle with a public defender, and when their eyes met, his expression was full of cold fury. He had cleaned himself up for the hearing, wearing a suit that was slightly too large and looking almost respectable. Almost. The judge, a stern-looking woman named Judge Martinez, called the court to order. James presented their case methodically, walking through the documentation of Dennis's harassment, the threatening messages, the scene at Grant Industries. He called witnesses, including the security guards who had escorted Dennis out and Patricia, who testified about Natalie's fearful demeanor whenever her father contacted her. Then it was Dennis's turn. His attorney painted him as a struggling single father who had sacrificed everything for his daughter, only to be abandoned when she found success. Dennis himself took the stand, and Natalie had to admire his performance. He wiped away tears as he talked about raising her alone, working multiple jobs, going without so she could have what she needed. I just wanted to see my daughter, Dennis said, his voice breaking convincingly. I want to know she was okay. And instead, I was treated like a criminal. Natalie felt doubt creeping in. He sounded so sincere. Would the judge believe his version of events? But then James stood for cross-examination, and everything changed. Mr. Brooks, you testified that you raised your daughter alone and worked multiple jobs. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. And yet, James continued, pulling out documents. Employment records show that between Natalie's ages of 10 and 16, you were unemployed for significant periods. Can you explain that? Dennis shifted uncomfortably. I was looking for work. Times were tough. Or perhaps you were unable to work because of your drinking problem? James suggested. We have hospital records showing 3 emergency room visits during that time period, all related to alcohol poisoning. Dennis's face reddened. That was years ago. I have changed. Have you? James pulled out more documents. These are from 3 months ago. Bar tabs totaling thousands of dollars. Credit card statements showing purchases at liquor stores. And gambling debts with several casinos in the area. The public defender objected, but Judge Martinez overruled, clearly interested in where this was going. Let us talk about these text messages you sent your daughter, James continued, displaying them on a screen for the court to see. In this one, you say you owe me everything. If you do not help me, you will regret it. In this one, I know where you work now. Maybe I should tell your boss what kind of person you really are. Would you call these the words of a concerned father, Mr. Brooks? I was upset, Dennis mumbled. She was ignoring my calls. You were threatening her, James corrected. And when threats did not work, you showed up at her workplace, drunk and belligerent, causing a scene that traumatized not just your daughter, but everyone who witnessed it. Does that sound like the behavior of someone who just wanted to make sure his daughter was okay? Dennis had no answer for that. His attorney tried to recover during redirect, but the damage was done. Judge Martinez called for a brief recess, and when she returned, her expression was grave. "I have reviewed all the evidence presented today," she began, "and I have seen enough cases like this to recognize a pattern of manipulation and abuse. Mr. Brooks, your testimony about being a devoted father does not align with the documented evidence of your behavior." Dennis started to protest, but the judge held up her hand. "I am granting the restraining order. You are to have no contact with Miss Brooks, directly or indirectly. You are not to come within 500 feet of her home, her workplace, or any location where she is present. If you violate this order, you will be arrested and face criminal charges. Do you understand?" Dennis's face went purple with rage. "This is not over," he shouted, standing up. "You cannot keep me from my own daughter." "Bailiff," Judge Martinez said calmly, and two officers moved toward Dennis. "Mr. Brooks, I strongly suggest you sit down and accept this ruling. Any further outbursts will result in contempt charges." Dennis sat, but his eyes found Natalie across the courtroom, and the hatred in them made her blood run cold. Even with a legal order, she knew this was far from over. A new chapter. Outside the courthouse, rain had begun to fall. Harrison immediately shrugged off his jacket and draped it over Natalie's shoulders as they hurried to the car. Once inside, she finally allowed herself to break down. "It is over," she sobbed. "It is really over." Harrison pulled her into his arms, not caring about the tears soaking his expensive shirt. "You were so brave in there," he murmured against her hair. "I'm so proud of you." "I could not have done it without you," Natalie said, pulling back to look at him. "Any of it. You gave me the strength to stand up for myself." "No, Harrison corrected gently. That strength was always inside you. I just helped you remember it was there." Back at the office, there was a palpable shift in how people treated Natalie. Word had spread about the restraining order hearing, about Harrison publicly supporting her. Instead of judgment, she received nods of respect. Patricia even brought her a cup of tea and a cookie from her personal stash. "You did good, sweetheart," Patricia said. "Really good." That evening, Harrison insisted on taking Natalie to dinner to celebrate. They went to a small Italian restaurant tucked away from the main streets, where they could be relatively private. Over wine and pasta, they talked about everything and nothing, carefully avoiding the heavy topics that had dominated their week. "What now?" Natalie asked as they shared tiramisu for dessert. "I mean, with us?" Harrison set down his fork and looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Now we figure out how to do this right. I know the situation is complicated. I am your boss. You have just been through a traumatic experience, and we have only known each other for 3 weeks. But Natalie, I have never been more certain about anything in my life. I want to be with you, really be with you." "But the company," Natalie protested. "People will talk. They will say I only got the job because of this, that I am using you. Then you will not work directly for me anymore," Harrison said simply. "We will move you to a different department with the same salary. Or better yet, we will create a new position for you. Something that challenges you, lets you grow. Maybe something in our community outreach division." "You would do that?" "I would do anything," Harrison said, reaching across the table to take her hand. "The only question is, do you want this? Do you want me?" Natalie looked at the man who had defended her, protected her, and seen her at her worst without running away. "Yes," she said simply. "I want this. I want you." Harrison's smile was radiant. He signaled for the check, and as they left the restaurant, his hand found hers naturally. Walking through the rainy Chicago streets, Natalie felt something she had not felt in years. She felt safe. She felt seen. She felt loved.